Welcome back to my channel, Rare Coins Shop. If you're excited about finding hidden gems in your pocket change, you're in the right place. First, we're going to uncover some of the most valuable and rare US coins that could be worth a fortune. Let's dive in. The 1943 5-cent coin. This particular coin is more than just a nickel, it has a fascinating story behind it, and if you're lucky enough to own one, it could be worth a whole lot more than just 5 cents. When most people think of a 5-cent coin, they imagine a simple, everyday item that's not worth much. However, the 1943 nickel is one of those coins that proves appearances can be deceiving. Why, you ask? Well, let's take a closer look at this specific year and mint, and why it could be worth a small fortune. To start, let's talk about the coin's origin and design. The 1943 nickel was minted during the height of World War II, a time when the United States was making strategic changes to its coinage. During the war, there was a shortage of certain metals like copper, which is traditionally used in the production of coins. In response to this shortage, the U.S. Mint decided to use silver in the production of nickels, resulting in a unique coinage series. This series, often referred to as the wartime nickel, replaced the usual composition of copper and nickel with 35% silver, 56% copper, and 9% manganese. This change in composition alone makes the 1943 nickel stand out from its predecessors, and it's one of the main reasons why collectors are so eager to get their hands on it. Not only does it carry historical significance, but the material composition of this coin also makes it rare in comparison to regular, pre-war nickels. But it's not just the composition that makes the 1943 5-cent coin valuable. The mintage is another important factor. While the mint produced a considerable number of these coins during 1943, the Philadelphia Mint, marked by the P mint mark, had a slightly lower mintage compared to other years. As a result, there are fewer examples of the 1943 nickel in circulation, particularly in high-grade condition. Now, you might be wondering, how does the condition of the coin play into its value? Well, the answer is simple. The better the condition of the coin, the higher its potential value. If your 1943 nickel has been carefully preserved over the years, without scratches, discoloration, or wear, it's going to be worth a lot more than a coin that's been in circulation for decades. Coins that are graded as being in mint state, with sharp details and no visible wear, tend to fetch the highest prices in auctions and private sales, but there's more to it. The 1943 nickel has become even more valuable due to the error coins that have been discovered over time. Sometimes, during the minting process, mistakes happen. And when they do, coin collectors get excited. Errors in coins, such as off-center strikes, double dies, or die cracks, are highly sought after because they are unique and much rarer than standard coins. If you happen to have a 1943 nickel with one of these errors, it could increase its value significantly. Error coins are some of the most prized items in the world of numismatics, and they can command top dollar at auctions. Collectors and investors often look for these types of coins because they are seen as historically significant and represent a unique moment in American history. The 1943 nickel was produced during a pivotal time when the U.S. was actively involved in World War II, and the minting of this specific coin reflects the efforts the country made to conserve vital resources for the war effort. As a result, the 1943 nickel is seen as more than just currency, it's a piece of the past, a tangible connection to the sacrifices and challenges the country faced during that time. Given the historical significance, rarity, and potential for minting errors, it's no surprise that the value of the 1943 5-cent coin has increased dramatically over the years. So, what can you expect if you happen to find one of these beauties tucked away in your collection or your pocket change? Well, if you're lucky enough to have a high-grade, error-free example, the 1943 nickel could be worth as much as $370,000. Yes, you heard that right, $370,000 for a single coin that many people would otherwise overlook. That's a life-changing sum for something as simple as a nickel. But that's the power of rare and valuable coins in the world of numismatics. If you think you might have a 1943 nickel in your collection, it's definitely worth taking a closer look. Check the condition, examine the coin for any signs of minting errors, and consider getting it professionally graded. A coin's true value can only be determined once it's properly evaluated, and you might just have a rare treasure sitting in your hands. So, to all the collectors out there, keep your eyes peeled for the 1943 5-cent coin. With its unique historical context, its composition of silver, and the possibility of errors, this coin is one that could be worth far more than its 5-cent face value. Second rare coin, we're talking about the 1972 United States 5-cent coin, or better known as the 1972 nickel. At first glance, the 1972 nickel might seem like a typical, run-of-the-mill 5-cent coin that you'd casually encounter in your change. However, this coin has caught the attention of collectors and investors alike for a very important reason: the rarity and the unique characteristics it possesses. Let's start with the basics. The 1972 nickel, just like the other nickels minted around that time, was part of the regular circulation of U.S. coins. These nickels are made from an alloy of 75% copper and 25% nickel, a composition that's remained relatively consistent in U.S. 5-cent coins for many years. What makes the 1972 version stand out is not so much the metal composition, but rather its distinctive minting patterns and certain fluctuations in the mintage numbers. In terms of design, the 1972 nickel followed the traditional style that had been in use since 1938, featuring Thomas Jefferson on the obverse side and the Monticello, his Virginia estate, on the reverse. This design has become iconic over the years, and while the look of the coin didn't change, it's the rarity and condition of this specific year's issue that makes it so special. Why should you care about the 1972 nickel? Well, the answer lies in the coin's rarity. You might be thinking, but wasn't 1972 just another year for the U.S. Mint? True, the Mint produced millions of these coins, but over time, certain factors have contributed to fewer and fewer of these coins remaining in mint condition. When you think of a coin in pristine condition, you're likely thinking about one that has no wear, no tarnish, and no noticeable scratches. It looks as if it just came out of the mint yesterday. Unfortunately, over the years, many of these 1972 nickels ended up in circulation, getting worn down, and losing their mint quality. So, when you do find one in exceptional condition, it can be a real treasure, but it doesn't stop there. The true value of the 1972 nickel is elevated even further because of error coins. As with many other coins, errors made during the minting process can increase the value of a coin exponentially. A die crack, for example, or a double strike, can turn a regular coin into a rare collectible. These error coins are more than just a quirk of the minting process, they're incredibly sought after by collectors who want to own a piece of history that stands out from the rest. One of the most significant error types for the 1972 nickel is the double die error, where the coin's design appears doubled, especially noticeable on the letters and date. This error happens when the die used to strike the coin malfunctions, causing the design to be imprinted onto the coin twice, creating a noticeable doubling effect. Coins like this are much more valuable than standard 1972 nickels, and they can command much higher prices on the collector's market. You might also be curious about the mintage of the 1972 nickel and how it plays a role in its value. While the total number of nickels minted that year wasn't incredibly low, the Philadelphia Mint, which produced the majority of these coins, struck millions of these nickels. So, why are some of them so rare? The answer lies in the condition of the coin and the demand for rare, high-grade examples. Many of these coins have been heavily circulated and are worn down, making the ones in good to mint condition highly desirable. But here's the kicker: the 1972 nickel, especially in error-free mint condition, has recently been known to fetch an astonishing price. If you're lucky enough to find one of these coins in excellent shape, you could be holding something worth far more than just 5 cents. In fact, some of these coins have sold for as much as $130,000. That's right, $130,000 for a single coin that was minted decades ago and may have spent time in circulation. For collectors, this type of coin is a real gem. It's a piece of history that offers both rarity and potential for future growth in value. If you have a 1972 nickel sitting in your collection, it's worth examining closely to see if it has any of the special qualities that can make it more valuable. Be sure to look for any visible minting errors, any signs of wear and tear, and if the coin has maintained its original luster. All of these factors will play a huge role in its overall worth. So, next time you come across a 1972 nickel in your pocket change, don't dismiss it as just another coin. Take a moment to inspect it carefully. Who knows? You might just have a rare and valuable piece of history that could be worth an impressive sum, and all for just 5 cents. And to anyone who's fortunate enough to find a 1972 nickel in mint condition, you might be looking at a price of $130,000. Third expensive coin, we're talking about the 1964D United States 5-cent coin, more commonly known as the 1964D nickel. At first glance, the 1964D nickel might seem like just another coin from the early 60s, especially when you compare it to some of the rarer, more famous coins from history. But trust me, this little piece of American currency has much more to offer than meets the eye. Whether you're a seasoned collector or a beginner in the coin world, the 1964D nickel is a coin worth paying attention to. Let's take a moment to explore why this particular coin is so special and valuable. To understand why the 1964D nickel stands out, we first have to take a look at the historical context behind its creation. The 1960s were a time of significant change and transformation in the United States, not only politically and socially but also in terms of coinage. The 1964D nickel was struck during an era when the U.S. Mint was still using traditional methods to produce coins, and it carries with it a legacy that tells the story of an entire generation. On the obverse of the coin, you'll see the familiar profile of Thomas Jefferson, the third President of the United States, as designed by Felix Schlag. This portrait has been used on the nickel since 1938, and it's one of the most iconic images in American numismatics. On the reverse, you'll see Monticello, Jefferson's famous Virginia home, which is a symbol of the early history of the United States, but it's not just the design that makes this coin special. The 1964D nickel is noteworthy because of the unique mintage and condition of certain coins produced that year. You see, the 1964D mint mark signifies that these coins were struck at the Denver Mint, and millions of them were produced. However, what sets this coin apart is its rarity and exceptional condition. As time has passed, the number of 1,964D nickels in pristine, uncirculated condition has dwindled. If you're wondering why the condition of this coin matters, the answer is simple: the better the condition of a coin, the more valuable it becomes. The 1964D nickel, much like many coins from the mid-20th century, was circulated widely in everyday transactions. Over the years, many of these coins became worn, scratched, and damaged. However, a well-preserved 1964D nickel in mint state condition can be a highly prized possession, and here's where the real value lies. Now, while the 1964D nickel may not have been considered a rare coin back when it was initially minted, its scarcity in high-grade condition today has made it a sought-after collector's item. One of the most important things that affects the value of a coin is rarity, and when you have a coin that was minted in large quantities but is now harder to find in excellent condition, its value skyrockets. That's why the 1964D nickel has become a key coin for collectors looking to complete their sets of nickels. But wait, there's more. In the world of numismatics, certain coins carry a higher value due to varieties and errors. For the 1964D nickel, there have been reports of coins with die cracks, off-center strikes, and other minting anomalies. These types of error coins are highly prized among collectors and can command much higher prices than a regular 1964D nickel. If you happen to come across a 1964D nickel with a notable error, you might be holding onto a rare treasure. Now, let's talk about the value. For most 1964D nickels, especially those in average circulated condition, the value is fairly modest. You might see them listed for just a few cents or $1 or $2, but the real value lies in those exceptional pieces. The well-preserved, high-grade examples, those coins that have been carefully kept, maintained, and preserved, are the ones that can fetch a truly remarkable price. And here's the kicker: if you're lucky enough to find a 1964D nickel in superb condition or a rare error variety, you could be looking at a coin worth $250,000. Yes, you heard that right, $250,000 for a single nickel. That's an incredible return for a coin that was once just another part of everyday change. Now, what makes this even more fascinating is that it's not just a matter of luck. With a little bit of knowledge and the right eye for detail, you can begin to spot the coins that have the potential to appreciate in value. It's not just about finding any 1964D nickel, but finding the ones that stand out because of their condition or era characteristics. If you're just starting to collect coins, this coin is a great example of how something as simple as a 5-cent piece can be worth a small fortune, especially if you know what to look for. The world of coin collecting can seem overwhelming at first, but once you understand the factors that make a coin valuable, it becomes an exciting treasure hunt. And who knows? The next time you're going through your pocket change or browsing a coin shop, you might just come across a 1964D nickel that could be worth a fortune. So, if you ever come across a 1964D nickel, don't just toss it aside. Take a closer look, check its condition, and see if it has any potential errors. You might be holding onto something worth much more than just 5 cents. In fact, that little nickel could be worth as much as $250,000. Especially, we're talking about the 1975D United States 5 cents coin, commonly known as the 1975D nickel. Now, you might be wondering, what makes the 1975D nickel so special? After all, 1975 was nearly 50 years ago, and coins from that era are typically not considered rare. But let me tell you, when it comes to coin collecting, a lot more goes into a coin's value than just age. The 1975D nickel, though seemingly ordinary at first glance, actually has some unique qualities that make it highly desirable among collectors. First, let's talk about the basics. The 1975D nickel was minted in Denver, as indicated by the D mint mark on the reverse side of the coin. The design features Thomas Jefferson on the obverse, which is a staple of the nickel. This design has been in place since 1938 and showcases Jefferson's profile. On the reverse side, you'll see a representation of Monticello, Jefferson's home in Virginia, which has also been a long-standing feature on the nickel. So far, this all sounds pretty typical, right? Nothing out of the ordinary here. However, the true appeal of the 1975D nickel lies in its rarity and condition. When we talk about coin values, it's not always just about how old a coin is or how many were made, it's about how many of those coins survived in pristine condition. Most coins from this era were circulated and have experienced years of wear and tear, which significantly diminishes their value. Now, let's dive a little deeper into what makes the 1975D nickel stand out. While millions of these nickels were struck, the true rarity comes from finding well-preserved examples. The coins that have remained in mint condition are extremely hard to find, and that's exactly what makes them valuable. As time goes on, fewer and fewer of these coins are left in great shape, making high-quality 1975D nickels a rare find indeed. If you're a coin collector, you'll know that condition is everything. A nickel that's been well preserved over decades, free of scratches, marks, or discoloration, will be much more valuable than one that's been through years of circulation. The most valuable versions of the 1975D nickel are those in gem uncirculated condition. These are coins that show no signs of wear and have retained all of their original luster, making them highly sought after by collectors. But wait, there's more. Coin collectors and investors don't just look for any 1975D nickel, they look for error coins. You might be wondering, what's an error coin? Well, error coins are coins that were struck incorrectly during the minting process. For example, a coin might be misaligned, or there might be a double die or other minting anomalies. If you happen to find a 1975D nickel with one of these errors, it could be worth significantly more than the average coin. Error coins are particularly appealing to collectors because they're not only rare but also represent a piece of history where something went wrong in the minting process. In the case of the 1975D nickel, some error versions could be worth much more than the regular uncirculated coins. Now let's talk about the real value of the 1975D nickel. As I mentioned earlier, the value of a coin depends heavily on its condition and rarity. While most 1975D nickels in average circulated condition are worth just a few cents, a well-preserved 1975D nickel can be worth thousands of dollars. However, the truly special coins, those that have been kept in perfect condition or have minting errors, can fetch an eye-popping amount. Imagine holding onto a coin that, in the right condition, could be worth $110,000. Yes, you read that correctly, $110,000 for a single nickel. So, how do you know if you have a rare, valuable 1975D nickel on your hands? It's all about paying attention to the details. When inspecting your coin, look for any signs of wear or damage. If it's an error coin, you'll want to make sure you're able to identify it correctly, which might require some expertise. It can be helpful to consult a professional or reference a coin guide that details common errors for the 1975D nickel. If your coin looks to be in mint condition and doesn't show any signs of wear, it's definitely worth getting it appraised by a professional. Now, let's talk about why coins like the 1975D nickel are so appealing to collectors and investors. The world of numismatics is filled with passionate individuals who understand the historical significance and the intrinsic value of these coins. The 1975D nickel is more than just currency, it's a tangible piece of American history. For coin collectors, owning one is a way of connecting with the past and preserving a piece of the nation's heritage. Whether you've been collecting coins for years or are just starting out, the 1975D nickel is a fantastic coin to keep an eye out for. If you happen to find one in great condition or with an error, you could be holding on to a significant piece of American history. And remember, coin collecting is not just about monetary value, it's also about the joy of discovery, the thrill of the hunt, and the satisfaction of owning something that's truly one-of-a-kind. So, the next time you're going through your spare change or browsing through a coin shop, take a second look at any 1975D nickels you come across. You never know, you could be holding onto a coin worth as much as $110,000. Last unique coin, we're talking about the United States 1990p 5-cent coin, better known as the 1990p nickel. This coin holds a fascinating story and is valued a lot higher than most people would expect. So, if you're curious about the value of this particular nickel, stick with me as we explore why this little piece of change might just be worth a lot more than you think. The 1990p nickel was struck at the Philadelphia Mint and, like many other nickels, it features the iconic design of Thomas Jefferson on the obverse, and Monticello, his Virginia home, on the reverse. This design has been a staple of the nickel since 1938, and it continues to serve as a reminder of Jefferson's legacy in American history. But what makes the 1990p nickel stand out from the crowd? In general, most people overlook coins like the 1990p nickel because they aren't as old or as rare as some of the coins from earlier periods. After all, it's from the early 90s, and many of us have probably come across one of these in our pocket change at some point. But when you look closely, you'll see that the 1990p nickel is more than just a regular coin, it's actually a part of a significant era in American coinage. The 1990s were a transitional time for coin design, and as years pass, the condition and rarity of certain coins from that time start to increase in value. The real kicker with the 1990p nickel is how its condition can affect its value. The vast majority of 1990p nickels that were produced were circulated in everyday transactions. Over the years, most of them have suffered wear and tear. But here's where it gets interesting. Just like with any other coin, the value of a 1990p nickel can skyrocket if you manage to find one that's in mint condition. Mint condition means that the coin has been preserved over the years with very little to no signs of wear. The finer details of the coin are still visible, and the original luster is intact. It's not uncommon for collectors to pay a premium for well-preserved examples, and the 1990p nickel is no exception. Now, here's the real catch, the rarity factor. As with most coins, there are certain things that can make them stand out from the rest. A 1990p nickel in pristine condition is quite rare. That's because many of these coins have been heavily circulated. As time goes by, finding one in exceptional quality becomes more challenging. Therefore, a well-preserved example can be worth far more than its face value. Beyond the condition, another element to keep in mind is the possibility of a minting error. Coins that were struck with some kind of anomaly, such as a double die or misaligned die, can fetch a significantly higher price in the market. These errors are often sought after by collectors because they are unique and represent a rare occurrence during the minting process. So, if you happen to find a 1990p nickel with one of these minting errors, you might be holding onto a treasure that could be worth far more than you ever imagined. So, let's talk about value. As mentioned earlier, a regular 1990p nickel in circulation is worth about 5 cents, which is no surprise. But when you find one that's in mint condition or has a unique error, that's when things start to get interesting. A pristine 1990p nickel can easily be worth a few $100s or even more, depending on the quality and any special characteristics it might have. However, if you happen to come across a 1990p nickel that is in near perfect, gem quality condition or has some sort of significant error, the value could easily skyrocket. Some high-grade 1990p nickels have been known to fetch up to $80,000 in the right market. Yes, you heard that right, $80,000 for a single 5-cent coin. While it's rare to find such a valuable coin, it's certainly not impossible. There have been reports of coins like this being sold at auctions to eager collectors who are willing to pay top dollar for a nickel in mint condition. So, how do you go about determining whether you have one of these rare and valuable 1990p nickels? The first thing you want to do is inspect the coin carefully. Look for any signs of wear, scratches, or discoloration. If the coin is still shiny and the details are sharp and crisp, you might be looking at a gem quality coin. After that, if you think you found something special, it's a good idea to have it professionally graded. Coin grading can provide an official assessment of the coin's condition, and that can help you understand its true market value. One thing that collectors love about coins from the 1990s, especially the 1990p nickel, is that they are still within reach for a wide range of collectors. They aren't as expensive as some of the truly ancient coins, but at the same time, they are becoming more and more valuable as time goes on. As the years pass, these coins continue to appreciate in value, and finding a pristine example or one with a minting error can lead to a substantial financial reward. So, whether you're just starting out in the world of coin collecting or you've been at it for years, don't overlook the 1990p nickel. While it may seem like a run-of-the-mill coin, its potential value makes it one worth keeping an eye on. The thrill of finding a rare, valuable coin like this one is something that all collectors dream of, and it could be waiting in your pocket or in a coin jar at home. Thanks for joining me today as we explored the world of the 1990p 5-cent coin. If you've got any of these nickels in your collection or come across one in the future, don't forget to give it a closer look. It might just be worth more than you ever imagined. And remember, the value of rare coins can always change, so stay tuned for more content on how to spot valuable treasures in your own collection. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you don't miss out on more coin tips and insights. Until next time, happy collecting.